Hey, good morning, geeks. I hope you guys are having a great Saturday morning. Wifey got me sick. She got sick, and she got me sick. And it's Saturday morning, and I'm on my way to. Let's see if I can do that a little better. Let's see here. That's all right. And we got to do this massive property it's a condo, like 6 buildings, surrounded by lawn in little tiny pieces. It's like putting together a puzzle with your blindfolds on and one hand tied behind your back. It takes forever to do. It's like 6.5 acres. So I'm going there with my tech this morning. I did half of it yesterday, and it started raining, had to call it a day, and then on top of that, battling this stupid cold, body ache and everything. And I'm leaving. I just got married last weekend, and I'm leaving on my honeymoon for, 7 days, and I'm leaving the business in the hands of a brand new tech that started with me a little bit more than a month ago. I think it's less than a month. It's going to be a month at the end of the month. And my admin, who's been with me for 2 months, and I'm trying to leave everything scheduled, everything done. They're going to have to handle the callbacks, the complaints, and seeing how they do. And, the reality is that if you own a business, one of the things my fiance says, you're not going to be able to travel so much because you always have to be here. And my thing is, I got to trust that I train them well enough that they can handle most things. And whatever cannot be handled will have to wait. And if the customer is that upset they got to wait for me a week, then they need to find another company. Because I didn't start a business to be a slave to it. Even though sometimes I feel like I don't own the business owns me. Lord, my cruise control because my camera doesn't like it when I go above 69. So I'll just put my cruise control on. But it's always a challenge. I mean, we're in South Florida. For you guys in the north, the northeast, northwest, that you have winters, a lot of you take off. And it's okay for you to take off. You close down the company and you have a skeleton crew and you lay off half the people. And that's the way you have to run your business. For us here in South Florida, we don't have overwintering of anything. We don't have overwintering of pests. As a matter of fact, most Christmases, the temperature outside is somewhere around 85 degrees. We're in a subtropical environment, the only subtropical environment in the country. So nobody really understands what South Florida is like to live here and work here, because we are the only one that has tropical rainforest conditions, and we got monsoon type conditions. And therefore, the problems, the callbacks, it goes down quite a bit, but throughout the year it stays pretty stable. We actually kind of like the winter because we get a break from all the heavy rains. Although some Decembers, we got 10 inches of rain. It just doesn't change much. So I'm going out on a Saturday to finish this huge complex with my tech. Hopefully I'll do a training video on how to input some of the problems and they can communicate together and schedule things. If they don't know how to schedule, I do all the scheduling. So that'll be, but my admin, she's sharp. She's a whip. She picks up on things very quickly. She can handle all the sales right now, all of the codes except for termite. Anybody codes for termite right now, they're going to wait a week till I get back. Nothing can be done about that. So I got to pick and choose and have to live a reality that says, you know what? I can't please everybody. We're a small business. We are going to turn things down all the time because we can't handle all of it. And people are just going to have to accept it or move on. And that's the reality. And so we're constantly fretting about all the lost opportunity, the lost business, customers being upset because you got to tell them no. Unfortunately, that's the reality in life. And they're not 2-year-olds like my son. When you tell them no, would get upset. People behave like that all the time. So, I'm leaving for a week. The business will survive. It will be here. I've been looking for another tech. I've interviewed 4 people in the last 2 weeks, of which I didn't want to hire them. Too many red flags come up. And I've learned that I'm better off being on the road for a while until I can hire that right person. Because a lot of the time where we get desperate is we got desperate people wanting jobs. I already had one and I turned him down, and he's too desperate for a job because he messed up, he lost his business, and because he started gambling on the stock market. He wanted easy wins. He got tired of running a pest control business and wanted some easy wins in life. And the problem is easy come, easy go. It's just the way it is. The other one is telling me that he did pest control in Cuba, and I showed him a video. He says, yeah, that's exactly how we did it. Baloney, dude. 2 minutes ago, he was telling me they were spraying organophosphates. Now, the conversation changed when I showed him an IPM video on how we do German roach with bait only. And he tells me, yeah, it's exactly what we used to do. So that's a negative, because you can't tell me one thing one moment, how you were using permethrin to deal with termites, and then telling me that you can do IPM. That's just, you flip-flop too much on the interview. So that's a no. I have another guy that we were supposed to go out today. It was supposed to be his training day. He's still working for somebody, because I said, you want to come over, we're going to go out and do this massive property today. He's working as a landscaper. And, he's older. He's in his 50s, but, you got to be in good shape to be able to do landscaping here in South Florida with the heat. And he used to do agriculture in Cuba. We're dealing with a lot of Cuban people, recent arrivals. They want to work. They want to go ahead. A lot of people will have issues. Well, you can't hire him because he doesn't know English. I said, I can teach him everything he needs to know. And if he's with a customer, we only see customers 20% of the time when we're in that home, and most of it is for initials and me doing follow-ups, and I'm doing all the initials. I'm the technician of first impressions. I'm the one that's doing all the upsells, cross-sells, termite estimates, termite work, and I got to be available to do that kind of inspection and do all the initials, and then need somebody to do just maintenance work. And that's all they're doing. And they only see a customer 10% of the time. 65% of our market speak Spanish. Here in Miami, 35 in Broward speak Spanish. And if they got a problem, they know they can call me directly. So that's a non-issue. Don't make an issue where their issue doesn't exist, because here's what you get. You get too idealistic on what you're expecting from technicians. And I've said this before, I've been saying it for 10 years. Technicians are not owners. As a matter of fact, I don't care what group I'm in, whether it's a roofing group, whether it's a cleaning group, whether it's a landscape group, AC, HVAC, it doesn't matter. Car mechanics, everybody has the same problem hiring people. But after you've hired over 25 people, you get more experience every single time. And what people are expecting it to be is easier than it really is, because they're reading all the comments that everybody makes from people who have a ton of experience hiring because they run big companies. And the advice always tends to be high level. And what I mean by high level means they're giving you the 30,000 foot, view of things, the overly simplistic answer, when in reality is that it's just another skill that you need to acquire if you're going to grow a business, and most people don't want to acquire new skills. What most solo operators want is to go into business, have a steady clientele, have no competition in the marketplace, and when they hire employees, expect them to stay because they pay a good salary and they treat them well, and they buy them breakfast, and they do all these things, and they're expecting employees, when they're making less, most of the time that their employee, they refuse to have to pay either the right amount to hire people, they're undershooting it, or they're overcompensating in hopes that money is the one that answers the question. And money doesn't answer that. Employees here in South Florida can't live on what they're making most of the time. None of them are making $50,000 a year. I mean, I think the average income is about $46,000. The average rent is somewhere around $1,800 a month. People are living way over 50% on rent. So they're always constantly looking for the next opportunity. They're going to jump ship for $1 an hour. There's nothing you can do about it. That's the reality. So you got to accept those realities if you're going to grow, because what most people I find is that they're hoping it's going to be easier than it really is because they don't have the experience. And the only way you can get the experience is by making the mistakes, because there is no hiring university that you can go to that's going to equip you to hire. And even people who are expert recruiters and groups are jumping ship and moving over to compliance, because compliance is a lot easier than recruiting. So if the recruiters are jumping ship, what makes it think that it's going to be easier for us that we can't read correctly, people? We think everybody's nice. We think everybody wants to work hard. We believe everything people say until we realize that we can't. And it only comes with failure. And that failure comes at a very, very heavy price to our emotional state and our financial state, because there's nothing that you can do other than to learn how to do it. I had to learn how to be a marketer. Right now, I'm learning copywriting and getting better at it. But that was a 5-year, 6-year learning curve. What I've learned is that I can't ask a lot of people for advice, because they don't have the experience either. A lot of people that you're surrounded by don't have the experience. They have all the answers, but no real experience. In other words, everybody can tell you the high level. You just need to pay better. You need to treat your people better. If you have the right culture, how the hell do you build the right culture when you don't have anybody? How do you have values in place when you've never hired? Your values are yours. You're the value in the company. So how do you build all this? You have to start with a whole new, it's kind of like I built a house, right? And I built a house, and now I realize that I got to do two things. I got to add on to that house or build on top of it, because I need more house, but I can't afford more house. And I got to learn to do a lot of it myself again. So a lot of it is learning new skills. And what people don't want to do is they want to abdicate. What I find is, if I can just find somebody that will do it for me for what I can afford, then I'll be successful. Well, the reality is that nobody can do it for what you can afford. Because when I tell you it's going to be $3,000 for a recruiter to hire, and that recruiter is going to you're going to have to go through 2 to 3 people before you find the right one. That's $10,000, $12,000. I see the most people trying to hire, and I find going through all the data is when you're in the lower economic areas. I find it when you're like in, let's say, rural Alabama. I find that the data is showing that you have people with lower skill set, and even though you're paying enormous prices to have them, you find a lot of people they're always looking for the next opportunity, and they will drop you. People are afraid to start and hire people because they're going to hire good people because those good people are going to quit and start up. That's nonsense. So one of the things that I find, and I keep finding, and I keep finding, and I keep finding, year after year, what the research data is showing, okay, that remember, we're in a blue collar job. We are in a job that deals with chemicals. We're in a job that deals with bugs. I got people that are applying that when I put them inside a cabinet full of roaches, they freak out. I'm like, what did you expect you were going to do? Run around with a B&G all day spraying baseboards? And they have bug phobia. They can't handle the pressure. You're almost self-employed, folks. Most people need to be managed. They're used to being managed and told what to do. You're looking for people probably in the top 20 to 40% of the job market when it comes to skilled and unskilled labor. Anybody can work in an office running Excel spreadsheets, they think, answering phones, working in fast food where they're highly managed. Very few people can work in an environment, they don't know how to function in an environment where they got to work independently, that they got to think for themselves and make decisions that are rational. What I find is that over all the people that are applying really suffer from low self-esteem. And you got people with low self-esteem overcompensating, making a lot of promises, talking a lot. At the end of the day, they can't back it up. So this hiring thing isn't, if you think starting a business and going out on your own is risky, is hard, it's not for the faint of heart, then growing a business is even much harder. This is why only about 1% of business ever make it to $1 million. Even restaurants, dry cleaners, it doesn't matter. They're doing under $500,000 because this is a whole new ballgame with all new rules. And most technicians turned self-employed people have never had the experience. And when they fail 2 or 3 times, when they have the person quit on them, steal customers, steal from them and do all kinds of stuff, that's it. By the 3rd time, they're throwing in the towel. I hear the same thing from pastors. Well, I don't want to train up people in my organization, in my church, because I want to keep the size this big. I'm comfortable. It's about what they're comfortable with. And what I find is that they've had the experience where people left, started up, and members followed them. And they don't want that anymore because it's too hard to build up an organization, build up a church to have them leave. I said, they're going to leave anyway. I've seen it time and time again. You're out of fear. You're doing things. What do I do now? Basically, I'm not in a rush to do anything. I interview, I hire, I will take this heat. I'm going into winter. Gives me a break, at least from the extreme 104-degree temperatures. And then I look for that ideal person, and I keep hiring and firing until I find the people that can, fit into the culture. Because there's no other way. If you put anybody on there because you need a warm body, what you're going to find is you didn't vet them enough. You got to run around with them to see how they behave in stressful situations. I put my people through the hardest. I find the hardest, most difficult jobs. And if they can't handle that. They're going to fall apart the first time they come across it. I need to know now. I don't need to know that you're afraid of gunshots and gunfire when we're in a rabbit hole together and shots are flying over our heads. That is not the time to find out you can't handle it. So it's 100% immersion from day one. Driving the van, I want to see how you drive. I want to see how you do everything. I want to see how you handle when the heat is on outside and it's 104 degrees. And I'm telling you, hey, bro, you missed half of that. And what your attitude is like. Are you getting upset, offended, frustrated? Because if you're easily frustrated, that's when it shows. And this is what people don't want to do. They don't want to find out the truth. They rather live in a delusion thinking, oh, I hired a great person, only to find out 2 months later that person is a disaster. You should have never hired him. Because you did it out of hoping for the best. And hope is not a strategy. You got to face the reality. You got to face the music. You're better off facing the reality the first week. You know, this guy I just hired, I put him in one of the most difficult situations. We were in a bee suit for 8 hours, removing beehives, opening roofs, and removing a beehive. And he wasn't afraid of the bees. He wasn't afraid of getting up on the ladder. I mean, if he did, he didn't show it. The exhaustion was there. We could have started throwing hammers, you know, and doing things. And his attitude throughout this whole process was amazing. So when I hire people, I'm going to stick you in the worst roach job. I'm going to stick you into a job like this where we got to do all day, because the last thing I want to know is, bro, I'm not going to be out here all day in this heat. This is the job. This is what you signed up for. And this idea, let's just ease them in. And then 3 months later, you know, we're figuring out, hey, I hate being out in that heat. I hate doing that. Real quick, I'm going to pull into this parking lot. I'm almost here. Whoops. So, you know, we don't want to hear the truth a lot of the time. We just want, I found somebody and I'm so happy. And then you're firing them 2 weeks later. Because you didn't do the vetting. You didn't see the signs. It's kind of like you're lonely. You're lonely and you just got divorced and you're on the rebound and you'll take anything that shows up. You ignore the signs when they're there, and then 2 months into the relationship, you're like, what the heck did I do? This is crazy. This person is nuts. This person is broke. This person doesn't clean their house. I can't live under these circumstances. Let me go over here. I'm going to put this because I know where I'm at. I just don't know exactly where this place is to get here. So that's kind of the same thing. We're desperate to find people, and we're tired of being in the field. And you get into this mindset also that, you know, why can't I be in the office? I'm the CEO of the company. You know, I want to be in an office like this guy. I want to do this like this guy did. And what you forget is that there was just this young man in a group that posted, he started up his business a month ago, and he already has 130 clients. And everybody's asking, well, what did you do? What did you do? What kind of marketing? What's this? How did you? And he's basically, hey, look, I knocked on doors. But he's 20 years old. Chances are he did door knocking for another company. He has the experience, and he decided to start up. I said, he has the experience that you don't have. Therefore, he's willing to do that. You see? And that's what I keep telling people is you got to get the experience. The only way you can get the experience is to do it, to eat that suck. You can't, there is no way around it. There's no easy button. There's nobody's coming to save you. There's no consultant that's going to hold your hand and walk you through that. There's no SEO company that's going to come and for for $600 a month that you can afford, they're going to get you number one on Google. Everybody is selling the illusion and selling the ideal to every small business owner, knowing that you don't have the time, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the experience, and half the time you don't even have the money, you can't afford it. You're the worst kind of client. If you were your client, you wouldn't want you either. Because it's get over here. 48. Something ain't right. Check this out here. Give me a second, folks. I'm going to be getting here in about 5 minutes. Oh, no wonder. Wrong one. Yeah, that's what I figured. Now we're talking. Those are the realities that I'm facing, that Christian Allen is facing. He keeps questioning, is it the culture? Is it this? Is it that? It's the fact is that when you're hiring at our level, we're not hiring at the same level that a guy with 20, 30 trucks on the road is hiring. The guy with 15. We're not on the same level. You can't compare. It's going to be harder for you. And he already had management experience. But it's different when it's not in your company. So you're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to be kind to yourself. You're going to have to... where'd he go? Okay. You're going to have to embrace that suck. You're going to have to eat a lot of crap to see where it comes from. I mean, there's no way around it. And like I said, I've hired and fired 3 people in the less than 60 days. And I've interviewed 3 more that were qualified. And then when I interviewed them, I decided I don't want them. I already know the signs after hiring 20, 30 people. Since I've had this business, I already can see the signs. You learn, in other words, if you focus on learning one thing every single time, okay, that you make a mistake, that you go into a situation, you learn something new every time and you apply it. The problem is that learning has a high tuition. That learning has a high level of pain that most people cannot handle. And I have no choice because I'm not going to be in a truck all year. I can do it for a season. Now I've been at it for about since July. But there's no way I'm going to do this, for a year. I just got to hire another person and I have to grow, get to the next stage, and then I'm going to do this all over again. And to get tech number 3. And then guess what? I got to do it all over again to get tech number 4. It's just that it gets shorter and shorter and shorter. It gets easier. It doesn't get easy. It gets easier because you have the experience now. And this is what I wish, what 90% of the people with a podcast aren't talking about. Bless me. Aren't talking about, because it doesn't bring in listeners. Everybody wants to buy the illusion, the idea. Every girl wants the dream wedding. Very few are prepared for a marriage. That's the reality. So they'll spend all of their time and all of their money planning the wedding and invest zero later in the marriage because the marriage gets tough. Marriages are full of hard decisions and hard times. You go through rough patches. And what I see with most people, and what I hear is, if this doesn't work out, and it doesn't go my way, I'm out of here. You know, that's the attitude. And employees, listen, if an employee, guys, listen, girls, if a person isn't going to be loyal to their spouse and cheat on them, what makes you think they're going to be loyal to you at work? If people are jumping ship on relationships when things get a little difficult, what makes you think at work when they can go find another job the next day? Most of the people that I'm interviewing, that I look at the applications, have had one job every 2 to 6 months. It's crazy. All of them have low-level jobs. They don't even qualify to get an interview. You got to go through 99 to get one qualified, but you have to interview about 5 or 6 to hire one. And then out of that, you'll end up firing and hiring 5 before you find one that's okay. I mean, think about those numbers for a minute. That's going through about 1,000 applicants, 20 interviews, and 5 hires before you can find. Buenos días. Venimos a hacer la fumigación de la hierba otra vez, que no pudimos terminar ayer. ¿Ese carrito es el mismo de ustedes? Sí, ese también. Good thing I speak Spanish. If not, this would have been a very difficult conversation because none of these guys speak English. Échame para acá. So anyway, I'm here. We're going to get this done. And I